Hello, and welcome to Weekend Wisdom. I'm Tracy Whitney, Content Manager for creatingafamily.org and your host for this episode. I wanted to welcome you and say thank you for all the questions that you've sent in. We are still looking for more questions and would love to receive your comments and questions at info@creatingafamily.org. We use them to plan future Weekend Wisdom episodes. We use them to keep educating ourselves, and it's a great way for you to reach out and get some practical help for the issues that you face when raising your adoptive, foster, or kinship care related family. Today's format is a little bit different. I'm not answering one particular listener's question because I was searching through our archives for something else and found an article that got me thinking about my own adoption experiences with my two children. And this particular article kind of sparked some thoughts, especially after I read my own comment on the original article way back in 2015 when we were still brand new to parenting adopted children. Mine were very little when they came home, and I was fresh into the learning curve of parenting adopted children. And all I can say after reading that comment is, wow, I didn't know what I didn't know. So that kind of started me down the path of thinking about the things that I wish I had known before I adopted. And if you're interested in the original article, you can go to our website, creatingafamily.org, and search 8 Things I Wish, and it should pull up the archived article for you. So I spent some time this week thinking about what I've learned from my own experiences, what I learned from our online community, which, if you haven't joined yet, is a fantastic place to hang out and learn from others. You can find it at facebook.com/groups/creatingafamily. And I took what I have learned, what I read in this article, and kind of some of my gut reactions to my original comment back in 2015, and created kind of a new updated list of 9 things I wish I knew before I adopted. So here we go, being a little vulnerable in this episode, more than maybe typical. Number 1, I learned that adoption is not a fairy tale, and that's okay. And I wish I had known that going into adoption. Many parents, including myself, go into their adoption experiences expecting it to be a way to complete their family. Obviously, starting a family if you're coming from infertility, completing your family if you've already been raising children. And many of us expected it to be kind of this big, beautiful, redemptive story for everyone. But I learned along the way that adoption is far more complicated than that. Love absolutely is essential, but it is not enough. It does not erase grief, it does not erase trauma, and it does not erase loss. So that was kind of a big foundational starting point for me. The second thing I wish I knew before I adopted is that kids grieve, even if they've been adopted at birth. As I said before, my children were young when we brought them home, but loss is a part of every adoptive story. Even infants adopted at birth can feel and carry pre-verbal grief and loss, and it might show up later in very unexpected ways. Knowing this can help us adoptive parents hold space for our children's feelings instead of taking their feelings or the challenging behaviors that come out of those feelings. Helps us not take it quite so personally. The third thing I wish that I had known before I adopted is that attachment takes time, and it's a two-way street. It's very common to assume that bonding with your child will be instant, especially if you adopt a baby or a very, very young child, and if you've done all the preparatory work, as if somehow that will ensure a secure attachment. However, it's really important to remember that building this relationship and the foundations for a secure attachment is a very long process for the child and for the parent. Very often, it also includes stops, starts, restarts, and detours. My favorite quote from that original article that I referenced at the beginning of this episode is the statement that attachment is not a straight line from the moment of meeting the child to the magical moment when you are well and healthily attached. And I wish that I had access to that quote. prior to bringing home my children. The fourth thing that I wish I had known before I adopted is just how much trauma can change the brain and affect behavior. Even if your child comes to you very young, the early neglect, chaos, stress, prenatal substance exposure, etc., that they experienced before you brought them home will impact their brain development. It often shows up in things like big behaviors, big emotions, meltdowns, aggression, withdrawal, whatever. And those things require some therapeutic parenting, not punishment. That leads me to one of the other things that it took me probably the longest to learn. And that is number 5, traditional parenting techniques just don't usually work. It's hard to admit, it's hard to swallow. It took me too long to learn this, but many of us in the adoptive, foster, and relative caregiving community feel like we're failures because nothing we do is working to change our child's behavior. And they come to us at Creating a Family for help. What do I do? My child's melting down, etc. They're frustrated that sticker charts and timeouts that maybe worked with other children aren't working now. And they are baffled, as I was, about why small things turn into really big reactions. What I had to learn is that our kids with trauma histories need connection before correction. That's why we're such huge proponents of parenting models like TBRI, the trust-based relational interventions, or therapeutic parenting. These are things that can make a huge difference in how your child trusts you and then allows you to correct them because they can trust you. Number 6 is that your expectations will need to shift. Whether it's academic achievement, emotional regulation, how quickly your child settles in, how you're settling in, how you feel about the attachment process, it's really important to try and let go of any of those unrealistic timelines or expectations that you may have. In the early days of raising our girls, our former executive director, Dawn Davenport, used to say to me, lower your expectations and then lower them again. And it was such great advice from somebody who'd been there, done that. So I was very grateful to have that guiding mantra to help me learn, because it did take me a long time to learn it. Number 7, I wish that I had known that I would need support and that it would have to be adoption-sensitive support and adoption-sensitive or adoption-informed training. Not all of the therapists, doctors, teachers, etc., that we work with as parents in the adoptive and foster and kinship circles really understand trauma. Sometimes we feel like we're educating the educators. It's really important that you seek out professionals to support your family that are trained in and experienced in, and that's the key, not just trained, but experienced also in things like attachment and trauma and the adoption process and what adoption involves, the multiple changing of places to live and multiple caregivers and things like that. And it's also really important to give yourself permission to switch providers if the one that you're working with doesn't feel like a good fit for your family or for your child. So the 8th thing, number 8, that I wish I had known before I adopted, and I will say the caveat to this is that I did know to some degree that this was true, but I wish that I had known how deeply sibling dynamics would be affected. Because we did parent children before we adopted, I had seen and experienced how adding a child by birth changed the sibling dynamics. But I will say that adding siblings by adoption kind of magnified the changes of sibling dynamics more than I expected it to. If you already have children, that could be true for you as well. Your birth orders may shift, jealousy and regression can happen. Plan ahead if you can to support both your adopted child and the children already living in your home. Planning ahead might look like getting someone to come and take your resident kids or the kids already in your home out for a date at the park. Some special attention with the resident children when maybe the adopted child is napping or when the adopted child is at school. kind of get creative with how you do that, but plan ahead any way you can to support both the adopted child in their transition to your home and the resident children as they're facing the impacts of this new sibling joining the family. And finally, the ninth thing that I wish I had known before I adopted is how much growth and change I would see in myself as a parent, as a woman, as just a regular human trying to navigate this planet. It stretched me and continues to stretch me in ways that I never imagined. It challenges my ideas about parenting, about identity, about justice, about mercy. It deepens my compassion, and my resilience has grown, and it expanded my ability to love. And I find that to be probably the biggest blessing of the changes that have occurred in my life. Is I feel like it's expanded me, not just as a mom, not just as the one kind of running the household here, but as a human being. I am thrilled and thankful for those changes. So there you have it. 9 things I wish I knew before I adopted, some good, some hard. Thank you to all of the contributors to the original article that sparked this idea for me to get a little vulnerable and share my thoughts on the matter. If you're listening and nodding along, or you're feeling overwhelmed by these 9 things and what they're doing to your life or what they might do to your life, just know that you are not alone. It happens to all of us who welcome children who've had difficult experiences into our home. The adoption journey, the foster journey, full of surprises. You don't have to navigate it alone. We don't want you to navigate it alone. And in light of that, we want to extend an invitation to you to join our Facebook community, facebook.com/groups/creating-a-family. It's where I got my feet on the ground when we were getting ready to bring home our adopted children. It's where so many of us learn and keep learning how to listen to others that have lived experiences with these issues. And it's where we connect with each other so that the road does not feel lonely along the way. Of course, our website, creatingafamily.org, has tons of resources to educate and support you, including articles, podcasts, and free courses, thanks to our partner at Jockey Being Family. You can find those free courses on our site by searching bit.ly/JBF support. That's bit.ly/JBF support. And you can also find the original link to the full article that kind of inspired today's thoughts in our show notes. And thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful that you spent some time with me today. I, again, would love it if you'd send your questions about anything related to adoption, foster care, or kinship care. I'll dig through the archives of our expert-based resources and find an answer that can strengthen your family. The questions should be sent to info@creatingafamily.org to join the queue of other questions that we have lined up for you. Thanks again for listening. Leave a rating or review if you enjoyed today's episode. We always love hearing from you, and it boosts our algorithm to get this kind of information into the hands of other listeners who are looking for this same kind of support and strength for their family. Again, thanks for listening, and have a great day.